We're Robin and Steve. Last episode we sailed over 300 nautical miles to the most eastern part of mainland Australia, Byron Bay, where we had a quick stop. Our legs thanked us for stepping ashore to climb up to the old lighthouse. It was beginning to feel a bit tropical on the jungly path, but we still had over 5 degrees of latitude to sail before reaching the Tropic of Capricorn. We left before dawn to head toward the Gold Coast. The weather dictated when we'd enter the Gold Coast Seaway, but we'd not taken into account how insane the water traffic would be on ANZAC Day. I couldn't film while we steered between fast super yachts as a surfer tried to paddle in front of us. Madness. See that massive boat there? I thought it was a building as we steered towards it. But it was just one of many party boats partying this long weekend. I felt a bit scruffy in comparison to all the boats around us. And the folks here go to trouble to look Gold Coast picture perfect. We anchored at the Gold Coast to get some supplies, shelter from the wind, and to catch up with these cuties. Then we set off toward Moreton Bay. It's a maze of shallow channels and moving sandbars. We chose the Canaipa Passage, knowing that if it got too shallow, we could turn around, so long as we left on a rising tide. First stop, South Stradbroke Island. It feels odd that such a zoo of a city is so close to vast open beaches. But the plastic has made its way here, in abundance. A beach stroll morphed into a plastic collecting mission. We both collected as much plastic as we could carry, and then took it back to the campsite bins. Better than doing nothing. The forecast storm was brewing. We were glad to be sheltered behind this island when the storm hit. It was cosy. We topped up our tanks with rainwater. We bid the city goodbye and gradually got closer to nature. But the waterways were still crowded with boats, and our boat was the only monohull sailing boat. And that's partly because the keel that hangs below our boat can mean that we get stuck in sandbars more easily than a shallow draft boat. slipping sands. The kids from the other boat anchored here had mastered the technique of sliding to the bottom. From the top of the dune, we watched a fisherman get his boat stuck as tides dropped. That could be us, in a bigger, heavier boat in the morning. We planned to head down the Canaipa Passage, which gets quite shallow. The hull below our boat juts down into the water 1.8 metres, so in a shallow passage we had to keep an eye on our sounder. Our sounder is set up so that it measures the water between the bottom of the keel and the rocks or sand on the bottom. If our sounder says 0, we're touching the bottom. To be safe, we set off on a rising tide. We were relieved to not get stuck in this first dangerously shallow section. Phew! But then we got stuck. -0.3 of a metre meant that our keel was in the sand. But we nudged sideways out of this shifting sandbar into deeper water. Phew again! This beautiful yacht lays sideways as a reminder to stay alert. Not that we needed one. Nearly stuck. The deepest section was right near the channel markers. We just made it. Then overhead power lines. You don't want to mess with them. Phew, we made it under. Our mast is 18 metres high. There would be no sailing today. We motored across the strange and shallow Moreton Bay on mirror seas. Turtles kept popping their heads up to breathe. We anchored at Peel Island, an old leper quarantine centre that was set up before it was known that the poor sufferers had a kind of leprosy that wasn't contagious. We were glad to get a good walk in before the storm hit. We had a great lightning show that night, and woke to see that our boat was surrounded by a huge school of tiny fish. We continued on through busy shipping lanes past Brisbane. Many trawlers were busy with dolphins feeding on the escapees. We were surprised to be followed by a little school of huge fish, cobia. Steve went fishing. The big fish got away.
Oh, damn it!
I was a bit nervous to enter Scarborough Marina that we'd never seen, but we tied up without trouble and were excited to have a hot shower. Steve replaced his old fishing line that kept snapping, and on the walking paths we took the slow lane. It was fun to check out the other boats, especially this one. Boat of Bill Hatfield. He'd broken the world record sailing solo around the world in his late 70s, and we met him, and he's lovely. While we were here, we caught up with Steve's family, did some grocery shopping, and while it was calm, I could do a little bit of aerial training. Steve hung out, where he used to as a kid, on this tree. We'd hung out with Steve's parents, and when it was time for us to go, we'd been quite loaded up by Steve's parents, with homegrown mandarins, home-baked cookies, a brand new fan, a shower bag, amongst other things. So on the morning we left, all we had to do was top up with diesel. And Steve's parents had gotten up super early to wave us off at the dock. Join us next time as we anchor amongst mansions before sailing the dreaded Mad Mile to enter Wide Bay Bar into Fraser Island, Kagari.